morning. My name is Christie Lancaster, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Good morning. My name is Matt Ensley. My pronouns are he, him, his. We remember the wisdom of the Sojourner Truth. Truth is powerful, and it prevails. May integrity be the ground we stand on.
We remember the poetry of Art Blakely. Whatever truth drops on it eventually grinds to a powder. May truth rise and fall, particles in the wind and breath.
We remember the perseverance of Marcia P. Johnston. How many years has it taken people to realize that we are all brothers and sisters and human beings in the human race? May the human struggle be heard in the rustling of the tree limbs, never deaf in our ears.
We remember the vibrant imagination of Octavia Butler. I recognize we will pay more attention when we have different leadership. May creativity stir us to dream.
We remember the discipline of Septima Poinsetta Clark. I believe unconditionally in the ability of people to respond when they are told the truth. We need to be taught to study rather than believe, to inquire rather to infirm. May we engage the holy text with rigor
and expectancy. We remember the steadfastness of Fannie Lou Hamer. Sometimes it seems like to tell the truth today is to run the risk of being killed. But if I fall, I'll fall 5 feet 4 inches forward in the fight for freedom. May our eyes be fixed on freedom.
We remember the accuracy of Ella Baker. In order for us as poor and oppressed people to become part of a society that is meaningful, the system under which we now exist has to be radically changed. It means facing a system that does not lend itself to your needs and devising means by which you change that system. May justice drive out all others.
We remember the depth of great joy of Mahalia Jackson. How can you sing of amazing grace and all of God's wonders without using your hands? May the joy of God take shape in our body, our actions. As we gather this morning, you are invited to join in singing Diverse in Culture, Nation, Race, number 485 in the hymnal. If you are in person, we invite you to stand as you are able. If you are joining us online, we invite you to sing loud and strong from your couch, car, wherever you are. We welcome one another as we join our voices together wherever we are.
In a society that often demands a singular portrait of the masculine, awaken memories and stories of the tenderness of fatherhood, that our narrative would not allow the men in our lives to be reduced. Grant those who have longed for their father more than they have been held by him the space to lament, to grieve in the way that they need to. Place people in their lives to remind them they are no less worthy of love. Liberate them to name their deepest longings, that they would not be rushed from their grieving. May they be held and loved and known. Amen. In this light, we point to this moment, burning in our midst, flame of hope, leading us onward. May we go with courage.
The deep and intimate spaces of our minds, hearts, guts, and spirits are held in the care of God. Whether we are yearning to feel God's presence because the world's grief overwhelms, or the oppressive narratives of systems and evil have turned us against ourselves, the love of the divine is never far off. Just as God's promises of liberation point us towards the hope of collective freedom, so too do God's promises reach the innermost parts of our being. There is no separating the personal and intimate from the institutional and cosmic. From our inner lives to global infrastructures, God is with us. May the heart of peace be with you.
And also with you.
To those online, we invite you to share this ancient greeting in the chat. For all those in the sanctuary, we invite you to turn to the camera and say hello to all worshiping with us in digital space this morning. For those in the sanctuary, you are invited to share this ancient greeting with those seated near you.
Good morning. It's so good to be with you all. Good to be in this space to share in this time. My name is Pastor Jenn. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and it is it's so good to get to be the one to say welcome. Whether you're with us online or here in this space, it is so good to be gathered together in the midst of these summer days, bright and full of life and energy, and lots of goodness around us. A way to check in so we can know with whom we're worshiping. You can hold up your phone as if you're going to take a picture, and it'll take you to a link. You can write on the back of your program. You can just come up, say hi. If you're with us online, there's a link. There's just a way that you can say, hey, I'd like some more information, or just let us know you were here. It's super helpful, and we appreciate it. Lots of ways to connect with us online. Gather around the table on Tuesdays at Dancing Mule for some conversation, or if you're interested in another space and time, that sheet where you check in is another place you can let us know. We realized the month started and birthdays got away from us, and there's lots of great birthdays happening in our midst. I know of one that is missing from our list up here. Arthur had a birthday yesterday. Are there others that are happy birthday? Are there others? Dave, we're missing yours. When was your birthday, or is your birthday? 23rd. All right. Happy early birthday. Are there others in our midst that are missing? Who? Julian, when's your birthday? The 28th. Oh my gosh, all these June babies. I love it. Happy birthday to those listed, to those not spoken, or if you're with us online, happy birthday. Happy June birthday. We're glad to get to celebrate you. So today is Father's Day, and I was going to share a little bit of knowledge about Father's Day because I found this absolutely fascinating. The third Sunday in June is the holiday that we celebrate fathers. The roots come from two early 20th century occasions. So a commemoration from December 1907, where some fathers were killed at a West Virginia coal company, and 1910, a celebration inspired by a Civil War veteran and widower who raised 6 children on a farm in Washington state. So now you know some of the origins of Father's Day. Much like Mother's Day, I think it's a day where many of us think about the relationships we have with our fathers, those that are still with us, those that have gone before us, and it's a lot to hold. So as you think about the history, the roots, to know the stories and origins of where these moments came from, we hope you have the space to be with a father, to remember a father, to have what you need as you go into this day and hold all that it can hold for us. Pride Night is coming up at the Cardinals. This is an opportunity, lots of great organizations, of course, Glow, Pride Fest. We do still have a few free tickets. If you would like to go, you can take the ticket and then redeem it for that day. Let us know those are in the office, but a chance to get to show up and go to a ball game together and celebrate Pride Night. Here's a couple other events going on. You can see more information about these in the avenues, but just some other really wonderful things that our partners are doing that you can show up for. One of the other things coming up next Sunday, which if you ordered a book, those are going to be in this week, and we'll make sure to get that to you ahead of our meeting. But we're reading The False White Gospel by Jim Wallace. It's a wonderful book that's going to go into Scripture and hopefully give us more understanding and ability to have better conversation with our neighbors. One of the hopes and goals of that one is to be able to do that. Juneteenth is happening this weekend. There's some celebrations still today. There'll be another celebration by United Community for Change next Saturday. So some wonderful opportunities as we get to celebrate Juneteenth as a national holiday for our 3rd year this Wednesday. Lots of wonderful things happening here locally in our community. Community Collaborative will be meeting today, and there's a lot of exciting things happening. So if this is of interest to you, you can just show up. You don't have to, it'll be like a 15, 20-minute meeting probably at most, and it's not a guarantee you're going to do something. It's an opportunity for you to bring an idea or hear some of the things that are working, and you might say, ooh, that, I want to do and be a part of that. So encourage you to stay. We'll meet in the parlor after church. And now it is time for your moment of Q.
Morning. I'm Pastor Jody, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And it has been a busy week as we have continued our preparation to give a gift of a play to our community in celebration of our 75th anniversary. This week, a piano bench was shortened, and want to thank Kim for that, and Caitlin and Jan and Claudia got together and took all the blocks for our giant quilt that have been finished and designed how they're going to lash them all together. And our wonderful accompanist, Rebecca, had all of us singing our songs almost correctly. And so that's a good thing. And tonight, our little ones will meet for the first time. Connie finished their costumes this week, and she does have some hymns to be taken up and let down in different costumes. So if you want to give Connie a hand, let her know. I'm sure she would appreciate that. So just lots of work continuing to go on. And we're coming up on the big job for absolutely everybody here. This week in the Avenues, there was our first publicity poster prepped and ready to send out to all your friends. So be sure you share that with your friends. Next week, we hope that the picture that's in there, however lovely it is of our friends working on the giant quilt, will be a picture of our actors, and we'll just replace that. But you can forward it now as is. You can forward it again, and then we'll also have posters and little handouts for you to give all your friends. But this is the big part of your job. If we give a gift to our community, we have to get the invitation to come to our gift out there. So we'll be getting those to you. There already is one on the website you can share, but please be aware, share it with your friends, invite people you know. You may need to mention that it is not a religious play. It's just a play that we're giving as a gift. And I hope that all of you will participate in this part of this project. Now let's take a breath and prepare to hear our ancient stories.
A reading from Exodus as interpreted by John Philip Newell. Moses returned to Egypt to lead his people from slavery into freedom. He told the Pharaoh, the king of the land, to let the Hebrew people go. But the king's heart was hard, and he became even more cruel. He called the slaves lazy and had them beaten as they worked. So Moses warned the king that his country would suffer if it did not change. Darkness settled over the land. The east wind brought clouds of grasshoppers that ate everything before them. Nothing green was left growing in the fields, but still the king's heart was closed. Thunder, lightning, and hailstones crashed down from the skies. Tens of thousands of water creatures emerged from the flooding rivers. Frogs swarmed the royal palace. Toads slept in the king's bed. Tadpoles lined the kitchen cupboards, and slime covered the castle floors. And the magicians of the court could do nothing. Finally, after even more disasters, the king relented, saying, "Let the slaves go." So Moses and the Hebrew people began their march to freedom. Men and women, young and old, cattle and sheep journeyed together. An angel of light traveled before them in a cloud by day and a flame by night. It led them to the Sea of Reeds, where they paused to rest.
But Pharaoh's heart again was hardened, and he came out to capture them. Horses and chariots, riders and foot soldiers raced after the Hebrew slaves. But the cloud of God moved between them, and a mist separated Pharaoh's army from the fleeing slaves. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and an angel of the east drove the waters back with a mighty wind. By early morning, the sea had become dry land, and the slaves crossed in safety. Pharaoh's army followed, but the angel of God confused them. Chariot wheels became clogged with mud, and horses began to panic. Moses again stretched out his hand over the sea, and from the west the dark waters returned. Waves washed away Pharaoh's chariots, and his soldiers sank in the sea. On the far shore of the waters, Moses and the people stood free, and Miriam, Moses' sister, led the women in a dance. From Galatians chapter 3. You are all God's children through faith in Christ Jesus. All of you who were baptized into Christ have clothed yourselves with Christ. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, nor is there male or female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Now, if you belong to Christ, then indeed you are Abraham's descendants, heirs according to the promise. A reading to ground us in our tradition and spark our imaginations as co-creators. Amen.
As we prepare for our community prayer, I'd like to invite you to find a comfortable position. Let the tension fall away from your shoulders. Let your feet either ground you or dangle in freedom. But mostly of all things, feel your breath and feel the love that is in this room. God, that we may be quick to pray for your justice to roll down like waters, we can be slow to accept what that may require of us. We struggle. Is justice sweeter than security, than survival, than power or comfort? When our hearts are stubborn, grounded more deeply in protecting what is, probably unjustly, ours, than in the commitment to collective well-being, soften us. When our legs shake with fear because we have been trained in maintaining the peace, not rocking the boat, or choosing to get along even when it means upholding harm, give us the courage to act anyway. When we tremble because our words proclaiming the dignity of our own people or that of others may cost us, steady us. When we are seduced by theories of change that protect the harmful at the neglect of the harmed, teach us through your prophets. When we are arrogant or patronizing towards those we have power over, presuming we know their struggles and what it will take to see liberation better than they do, convict us. When we wonder if we are powerful enough, if we are smart enough, if we are brave enough, if we are strong enough, if we are gentle enough. Assure us, O God, that together we have everything we need to rise, to rally, to proclaim, to create, to feed, to dream your will into life. On this day and always, wherever white supremacy rears its ugly, evil head, in rallies, in words, in norms, in prayers, in institutions, in relationships. Let nothing take precedence over our commitment to love. Love that overturns evil, love that protects, love that lays down its life for its friends, love that acts in solidarity, love that refuses to compromise on the belovedness of your people, love that confronts, love that heals, love that looks inward, love that shuts down hatred. May our prayers for your justice be enfleshed in our minds, our bodies, our hearts, our commitments. May it be so.
Thank you, choir. I'd like to invite you to try a practice with me this morning. We often talk about taking action with our hands, being the hands and the feet of Jesus. So this morning, I'm going to invite you to sit with your hands, not on your hands, but with your hands. So hold on, go with me. First, just take out your hands. Maybe look at the tops of your hands for a moment. Just think about them. You can flip them over and maybe make a cup. Pay attention to the lines in your hands, the traces of them, just whatever you notice. The folds, where they bend. As you feel comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes. Continue to hold your hands in front of you. Consider, where have your hands been? What have your hands held? What have your hands loved? What has challenged your hands? Consider, how have your hands impacted the hands of others? What are the stories in your hands? Just take a moment to sit with what's rising in you. I invite you to gently come back to this space and begin blinking your eyes open. Maybe your hands are still cupped, and hold them for a moment. I'm mindful there's a lot of stories here in this place, so many that we could turn to each other and share. I invite you to continue to hold those close, hold those near. This week, as I was leaning in to learn a little bit more of the history of Juneteenth, I was finding out more facts and figures and the historical pieces of this. I came across a couple images. The image that stopped me in my tracks, that I just couldn't stop staring at, was so captivated, the hands of Henry Brooks. You've seen that image. We've had it up. It's this morning's image. It's on the front cover of your program. And I've been thinking about Henry's hands. These weathered hands that tirelessly worked the land. Hands that were bound in slavery. And hands that knew the stories of liberation and freedom, that saw that in his lifetime. And even as the story changed, the hands that held the memories, the work that still had the weathered pieces and yet still hold hope and freedom. In the book by Resma Minikim, it's close pronunciation, not 100% right, but close. The name of the book is My Grandmother's Hands. And he discusses racialized trauma and the way to mend our hearts and our bodies. Our bodies hold these stories, much like we sat with our own stories. They hold the stories of our ancestors and so many. The stories become a part of our blood and part of our nervous system, so it matters that we pay attention to our hands, to what's happening in our bodies, to begin to notice these impacts in the stories because they have impacts on one another's hands. The stories we tell and what we do with them matters. Today we heard the stories out of Exodus, and I love John Philip Newell's kind of playfulness with the story, but it's a story of liberation, story of freedom, of people rising up and reminding us when people are in horrific situations that another way is possible. Enslavement is not the final word of the story. The people make their way to freedom and they dance with great joy. We also heard the words in the letter to the people to the Galatians. And in these words, this way, there is the hope of justice and liberation for all people. It's accessible for all. Paul's words were radical. I don't know that we can fully comprehend and stress that. He was living in systems of supremacy with people in power trying to keep checks and balances on who's on top. That was alive and well in his context. And yet Paul understood that everyone had access to love and rights. It didn't matter, slave, free, Jew, Greek, Gentile, everyone. That was not the story that was being told widely in his context. It was a very controversial story. Paul's words in the stories of Exodus were so radical, in fact, that there are translations and copies of the Bible that left out these stories. Because folks knew the power of imagination and what these stories did and could do. Some of us have heard that before, and those of us reading The False White Gospel by Jim Wallace were reminded of that there were generations of enslaved people born in America who converted to Christianity, and yet enslaved people were forbidden to read the Bible because of powerful stories like these. This kind of promise was too much. There's translations of a slaveholder's Bible that was created that just simply omitted these stories, took them out, knew how powerful they were, and in fact, the Bible was used as a tool to tell a story that slavery's okay. That's part of our history and our tradition. There was a Baptist minister and teacher, also by the last name of Brooks, ironically here, that made a case connecting the descendants to Canaan, the son of Ham, who was condemned to slavery, saying that that's the lineage and the line. Wallace assesses all of this and this practice and what was done and says, in their treatment of both Native Americans and Africans, white Christian theology deliberately distorted God's word and will to authorize the power of white European founders of America. At its core was the tremendous profit supplied by free labor of the enslaved. Profits and politics prevailed over God's word. It's Wallace's reminder to us of what happens in this story. It's so important to remember the hands of our ancestors and the systems of white supremacy that were created and upheld in Christianity's name. Meekin reminds us that when we feel that fight or flee or freeze come up in our bodies, when we think, "Ooh, that's a lot to hold, that is hard," that we can lean into that and find a different way forward. That is, we as ones who proclaim this way of God, knowing this way of liberation, that we believe Paul's words as we want to lean in and find new practices, the ones that Paul writes about, that we need more tools to help us to find a way of healing, of holding our hands, of paying attention, to continue to find our way forward. This week holds a significant date that has two very important meanings. I loved learning this week. So the first is Juneteenth, which again, many of us now know the story, may or may not have a few years ago, but know the story of Freedom Day or Emancipation Day. I'll go ahead and remind you, just to speak it into space one more time, what this means. So we'll celebrate this federal holiday, again, for the third year. It's been celebrated for communities over decades and generations, but we as a nation are officially celebrating this together very recently. Hope that you have had some time to see celebrations or planning to get to experience them or know a little bit more about that in the coming days ahead. But this day will mark the day that President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, which only applied to enslaved people in the Confederacy, and its enforcement depended on the presence of the Union troops. So the troops didn't arrive into Galveston, into some of the furthest places, the southernmost outpoints of enslaved territory, until June 19th, 1865. So it took 2 years for freedom to actually make its way fully into the outmost reaches. So it didn't just happen in 63, 2 more years. So Juneteenth is a marking and a reminder of that, and an opportunity for us to hold that. So this June 19th is also the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which I think is pretty cool to get to mark that too this year. So this is an act passed by the Senate considered the most significant U.S. civil rights legislation since Reconstruction. So the act prohibited discrimination based on race, color, religion, national origin, and when it comes to employment, voting, and the use of public facilities. I can see the face and the hands of those who marched in those moments. The ones who sat at lunch counters, the ones who gathered in church basements and planned and organized. I wonder, what would they say 60 years later? What are their echoes? Have their deepest dreams for freedom and their longings for liberation been realized? How have we, and how will we carry this moment? To carry their dreams and hopes for the fullness of liberation, a world where all know the fullness of love and know their fullest humanity realized. Listening to their stories, to the stories of Christians who have shaped the systems before us, the ones who've taken the Bible and used it to inspire justice and revolutions, to those who've used it to promote white supremacy, we hold all of this in our hands. And we know the story is still being written. Sometimes when I feel the weight of all of this and go, whew, that is a lot, I need something to stir up my imagination. I often turn towards prophets, which I often hear in great storytellers or in the poets. One of my very favorite poets is Amanda Gorman, our poet laureate. She's incredible and writes so many beautiful words. So I want us to hear, I'm going to read one of her poems, In This Place, an American lyric. It's a charge, it's a call, it's an invitation. So I'm going to read it. You can return to your hands if you want to in this moment to bring them back and spend a few more minutes. You can close your eyes. Take the space as you need, as you hear this call, this invitation from Amanda Gorman this morning. There's a poem in this place. In the foothills and the halls, in the quiet beat of the seats, it is here at the curtain of day, where America must write a lyric you must whisper to say. There's a poem in this place. In the heavy grace, the lined face of this noble building, collections burned and reborn twice. There's a poem in Boston Square where protest chants tear through the air like sheets of rain, where love of the many shallows hatred of the few. There's a poem in Charlottesville where tiki torches string a ring of flame tight around the wrist of night, where men so white they gleam blue like statues, where men heap that long wax burning even higher, where heather hair blooms forever in a meadow of resistance. There's a poem in the great sleeping giant of Lake Michigan, defiantly raising its big blue head to Milwaukee and Chicago, a poem begun long ago, blazed into frozen soil, strutting upward and aglow. There's a poem in Florida and East Texas where streets swell on a nexus of rivers, cows afloat like molten buoys in the brown, where courage is now so common that 23-year-old Jesus rescues people from the floodwaters. There's a poem in Los Angeles, yawning wide as the Pacific tide, where a single mother swelters in a windowless classroom teaching black and brown students and waits to spell out their thoughts so her daughter might write this poem for you. There's a lyric in California where thousands of students march for blocks, undocumented and unafraid, where my friend Rosa finds the power to blossom in deadlock, her spirit the bedrock of her community. She knows hope is a stubborn ship gripping a dock, a truth you can't stop a dreamer or knock down a dream. How could this not be her city? Sunisian, our country, our America, our American lyric to write a poem by the people, the poor, the Protestant, the Muslim, the Jew, the native, the immigrant, the black, the brown, the blind, the brave, the undocumented and undeterred, the woman, the man, the non-binary, the white, the trans, the ally to all above and more. Tyrants fear the poet. Now we know it. We can't blow it. We owe it to show it, not slow it, although it hurts to sow it when the world skirts below it. Hope, we must bestow it. Like a wick in the poet so it can grow, lit, bringing with it stories to rewrite. The story of a Texas city depleted but not defeated. A history written that need not be repeated. A nation composed but not yet completed. There's a poem in this place. A poem in America, a poet in every American who writes this nation, who tells a story worthy of being told on this minnow of an earth, to breathe hope into the palpus of time. A poet in every American who sees that our poem penned doesn't mean our poems end. There's a place where this poem dwells. It is here, it is now. It is the yellow song of dawn's bell, where we write an American lyric we are just beginning to tell. May it be so.
Good morning. You may have noticed that recently, in the last few months, all of our worship leaders, including in addition to our clergy staff, have been introducing themselves before they start reading with both their names and their pronouns. And Pastor Jenn asked me to spend a little time this morning on this Sunday during Pride Month explaining why we have been doing that. So, have you ever been at an event and run into a very casual acquaintance? Maybe you're at a wedding. I'm not saying this has ever happened to me, but maybe you're at a wedding and you're speaking to the bride's aunt and you know you met her at the bridal shower. You even sat with her for a while and you were on the same team at one of those silly who knows the couple better games. But as you stand there chatting with her at the wedding, you cannot, for the life of you, remember her name. You're making polite conversation on the surface, but inside you are just filled with turmoil and distraction. Was it Jan? Sarah? Aunt Judy sounds right. Lots of people have an Aunt Judy. There are several ways to handle this, right? You could wait until the conversation ends naturally and go back to your +1 and say, what's the name of that lady I was just talking to? Or you could sneak a peek at the seating chart, like really surreptitiously, just like table 4, seat 7, yeah, that's her. Or you could take a risk and say something along the lines of, I'm not sure you remember me, we met at the shower. My name is Melisabeth, but can you remind me of your name? That last one, that last option can be uncomfortable at best. You're admitting that you've forgotten. You hope that it doesn't come across that you're uncaring, but you worry it will. You worry that Aunt Judy, or whatever her name was it Pam? Will think her conversation wasn't valuable or important enough for you to remember her. Now, hopefully for you, this is an occasional experience. That feeling of discomfort, of awkwardness, of not knowing the best course of action to make the other person you're with feel at ease. For someone who uses different pronouns than the ones assigned to them at birth, it can feel like they are having that awkward Aunt Judy conversation day in and day out. When do I say that I use he? She's referred to me 3 times as him. Is it too late to correct her? And it can go so far past awkwardness. If I put my pronouns on my name tag, am I going to be fired? Is this person safe? Or if I ask them to use my correct pronouns, will they hurt me? In all of this, we, as a community of people who are committed to living by the example set by Jesus of Nazareth in a way of radical love and justice, have a new option. We get to be Aunt Judy. We get to the punch table and we see that nice young woman we met at the shower, and we reintroduce ourselves. We can lead with love. We can get used to including our pronouns in our introductions, and by doing so, we can make our community a more welcoming place. It's a quick and easy way to vocalize inclusion and safety, as well as to support, celebrate, and affirm our transgender and non-binary family. It communicates where our values lie, and that we envision a world where diversity is celebrated and all people are respected, valued, and affirmed. And it can be a conversation starter that allows us to lead with our love and educate new and potential allies about gender identity, gender expression, and the gender spectrum. Let's all be like Aunt Judy. We walk up to the punch table and say, oh, hello, it's nice to see you again. I'm the bride's aunt, Laura, she, her. My name is Melisabeth, my pronouns are she, her, and this morning's offering will now be given and received.
A place at the table.
My name is Steve Flower. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Would you pray with me? God, so too many times we feel the words of the psalmist that says, "How long, O Lord, will you abandon your people forever?" And yet we know that this table is a symbol of the welcome, of the care, of the acceptance of those who have been considered outsiders for so many times, that we are all refugees taking sanctuary here in a place of love. Thank you for the opportunity to share our time, our talents, and our wealth with you, with this community, that it might be a beacon now and for as long as this place exists. We pray all this in your most holy name. Amen.
You may be seated. We gather here, each a beloved miracle of divine creation. God has given us so much.
We have each other.
We have the beauty and courage and the capacity to dream. These precious lives of ours, so short and vulnerable, they're meant to be lived abundantly, rich in joy and meaning and connection. We know, however, that forces of evil work to suppress God's intention for our lives. White supremacy, anti-LGBTQ plus oppression, sexism, poverty, work to strip individuals, communities, and the earth from the ability to thrive. And so the miracle of life becomes a burden. People struggle with the will to live.
We turn on each other.
We hoard resources and numb ourselves to pain and desire.
We lose touch with the power of God that illuminates possibilities for collective liberation.
For this reason, we turn to the table.
At the table, we feast on reminders of God's presence with us.
We taste, we eat, we feel.
We encounter Christ among us and within us. Here too, we remember all who go without food, without safety, and in search of belonging. We are made alive again, both to the pain and the pleasure of the world's aches and possibilities. The bread of life nourishes us for works of justice. The cup of blessings revives and restores. We do this in likeness with those who gathered with Jesus on the night of his arrest. In community, he took bread and broke it, gave it to all of them, and said, "This is my body, which is given for you. Take, eat, and remember me." After the supper, he did the same with the cup, saying, "This is a symbol of the new covenant. Drink in remembrance of me." In remembering the life of Jesus, we remember that the suffering of one of us belongs to all of us, and that our joy, our sorrow, and our hope are entangled together. And so we pray, pour out your Spirit on this bread and this cup, O God. Through these gifts, renew our commitment to love one another. Gift us with a taste of your kingdom, that we might work to embody it this day and always. Amen.
Lord God, as we come together this morning to take communion, remind us of the relief that love provides. Remind us of the warmth that love provides. Remind us of the strength that love provides. Remind us of the growth that love provides. Remind us of the peace that love provides. Remind us that if we provide love, love provides.
A word of thanks to our tech crew who ran things beautifully, to music that always just fills our hearts, to all that helped to bring this space to life through words, communion this moment, and to each of you for your presence, your questioning, your curiosity, and showing up. Thank you for being with us online or being here in this place. A reminder, there are treats in the gallery, coffee, tea, water. Hope you will linger for a while and join the community collaborative if that's yours to do. Otherwise, just enjoy conversation and the joy of this company and community. Let us stand and join our voices together as we're able as we sing "Oh for a World." To bless us for our journey, these words from Amanda Gorman one more time. Hope, we must bestow it like a wick in the poet so it can grow, lit, bringing with its story to rewrite. The story of a Texas city depleted but not defeated. A history written that need not be repeated, a nation composed but not yet completed. There's a poem in this place, a poem in America, a poet in every American who writes this nation, who tells a story worthy of being told on this minnow of an earth, to breathe hope into a palpist of time. A poet in every American who sees that our poem pen does not mean our poems end. There's a place where this poem dwells. It is here, it is now, in the yellow song of Dawn's Bell, where we write an American lyric we are just beginning to tell. Go forth and tell the story.